Hey Moonlovers, welcome to another episode of All Things Moon, Lunar Wisdom for Everyday Life with myself, Kelly Jones. And as you can see, I'm in a slightly different setup today, different room in the house. This used to be the room of doom until my lovely friend Louise Simpson of Louise Simpson Coaching, who is a professional organizer, helped me to get this room back into a room where I can relax and not feel stressed. And being that the moon is in Virgo today, we're coming up to a new moon. So we're just past the last quarter moon. It was the last quarter moon in the sign of Cancer at the beginning of the week. Moon is in Virgo today, which has meant that I have been perfectionism, procrastinating on this episode all day today, finding other things to do in the house that need doing, organising. So I have found myself now having to come upstairs to get a little bit of peace and quiet in the house. And just show you, look, there she is, my little windy girl. Sorry, moving the camera around there, sitting relaxing with me. So I have got my notes on my lap, so apologies if I am looking down. Normally I have them in front of me so I don't have to move my head around too much, but anyway, here we are. So welcome back. Where was I last week? I don't even know where I was last week, but it's been a very strange, discombobulating time fraught with lots of challenges. You know, this challenging cycle of time that we all find ourselves in. If we know our own charts and we know where that's going to show up for us. And I definitely know that since Uranus moved into Gemini on the day of my birthday, things have been brought up to be seen, coming in to disrupt things for definite change. So this is nothing has been smooth, easy and flowing, although at the weekend just gone. So that's where I was. I was in London at the weekend doing my Strala yoga teacher training again. I don't need to do any more teacher training, but I do it to fill my own cup up. And more than anything, it actually helps to regulate my nervous system. Being in a room, I think I've told you about this before, but being in a room with, 50 plus people who are all softening, breathing together, moving together, and coming into our parasympathetic nervous system together is something that you just want to keep going to do again and again and again, because as soon as we step outside of that studio, we have that to take with us out into the world, in a world full of people that do not feel safe. And we all challenge each other to see how long we can keep that feeling going, and I really have managed to do that all week this week. So I'm still feeling very calm and at ease, and a sense of that softness around me. And to help with that energy, we had Venus moving into the sign of Libra this week, into her palace, Venus's home of Libra, where she can be her absolute beautiful, harmonious best. So that has been a nice, helpful energy this week, and I for one have definitely felt that slight softer sense of everything. So let's get onto the list of everything that has been going on and that is coming up. So as I mentioned, today moon is in Virgo. Moon is traveling through all the signs, as she always does every month. So she moves roughly about every 2.5 days into the next sign, always moving from the next bit to the next bit to the next bit, which is very much what we were learning about at the weekend on our Astrology yoga training. That constant flowing, rhythmic, moving, changing cycle where we go from the next bit to the next bit. So as much as we might get caught up on the last bit and the bit that hasn't come yet, all we can do really is be in the bit that we're in before the next bit, and do a little better each time if we can. So on the 13th, so what are we on today? We're on the 17th. So on the 13th of October, Venus moved in to her home of Libra, bringing us a nice sense of peace, harmony, making us maybe a little bit more interested in the beauty of things, the balance of things. We had also on the same day, we had the last quarter moon, which is that lovely time before we come to the dark moon and the new moon to really focus on what we might want to release and not go forwards with as we come to the next new start, the next new phase. That last quarter moon was in the sign of Cancer, that nurturing, self-loving, homely, feeling at home sign. And something that was said at the weekend just before that last quarter moon was arriving was how much of us felt that when we were, whether it be online with the Strala Yoga app or whether we were in-person training, whether we're doing our own practice or whether we're teaching and guiding a class, when we are in our Strala zone, we feel at home. And the app is called Strala Home. So it was really apt that we had that last quarter moon in the home loving sign of Cancer. So the classes that I was guiding at the beginning of the week were very much, we brought in a little sense of challenge, because to release something can be challenging, can't it? But we also I brought in lots of opportunity to release after the challenge. So that is how, when I'm teaching and guiding a class, that I bring the moon phases into the energy of the class. So whether that be Pilates, whether it be yoga, I will bring that energy in so that we can utilize it, so we can remember it on a weekly basis. So if we're not on it on a daily basis, at least we can be on a weekly basis. And for those of you who only join me for the moon ceremonies, maybe an every 2-week basis. The idea is that we start to track and follow the moon's cycle, so we become more in tune with the natural rhythm of the energy. And because we're still in Libra season and the new moon that we have coming up is in the sign of Libra, that balance and harmony is very much in our field of awareness right now. It's very much about what we're being invited to tap into, to be aware of. And I don't think balance isn't a static state. It is, it's this constant rhythm of moving cycles. And it's when we try to resist that movement of those cycles and try and stay in control of where we are, that's when we feel the difficulty, when we feel the pain, when we feel that resistance, when we don't allow ourselves to go with the rhythm and the flow. So that's really what we're being invited to look at here in various different ways. Obviously, where any of this that I'm telling you about, the best thing you can do is get your chart done. Get familiar, get to know yourself via your chart. And then you will see, when I'm talking about all these things, you'll be able to go to your chart and see exactly where or which area of life that is going to be highlighting for you, which it's going to be showing you, inviting you to be aware of, to do something about, or to enjoy, or to look forward to. Or to be wary of, or, to prepare yourself for, not in great detail, but in a symbolically forecasting way of a likelihood of that happening. So we came through that last quarter moon. We're in the Virgo energy today of health and well-being and daily routines and being of service to you. And one way that you could be of service to me, so we find this balance of give and receive, of self and other, which is very much this Libra energy, is please hit the like, subscribe buttons, please share it. Please tell your friends about this channel so that I can get this information out further, so we can help more people, so we can help each other. As I've said before, imagine if all 8 million people in the world were to get to know themselves, to understand themselves better. What a better world we would be living in. I wonder what that would look like. So what happened? So we had that last quarter moon in Cancer, and that went from the 13th into the 14th of October. And what actually happened on the 14th of October is that we've been very quiet and not mentioned the planet Pluto for a while now. But if we go back to the end of last year, there was, everybody, all the astrologers, we were all talking about the fact that Pluto, for the final time, was moving out of the sign of Capricorn into the sign of Aquarius for the next 20 or so years. And a little while back, Pluto went retrograde, but this is the first time in the past 20 years with Pluto going retrograde that it didn't go back into the previous sign. So it's hovered around that 0 to 1 degree point of Aquarius. So being very much strengthening, because when a planet is retrograde, it comes closer to us on the Earth. So we might have felt that more strongly, the influence of it, but we haven't talked about it too much because it's not been in too much greater part of the current stories that we've had. Although we have had some, oppositions from Mars or squares from Mars. So Pluto ended its retrograde on the 14th. So it is literally, now we're on the 17th, it's literally just starting to move forwards. And as I have explained many times on this channel, that when a planet is either slowing down to station to go retrograde, or is starting up, stationing to move forwards, it's like a big tanker coming in and out of port. So when it starts its engines up, the waves get bigger as it starts its slow journey out of the port to start moving forwards again on the next part of its journey. Bearing in mind that Pluto in Aquarius is very, very much related to this power, Pluto, to the people, Aquarius. Aquarius is very much about community, is about freedom, rebellion, revolution. It's very much associated with those things, where Capricorn has this very much, the mountain from the peak at the top down, so it has a hierarchy and the people low are down here. Aquarius is very much this circular, where we are all equal, where we are a united front. And we can definitely see already that things that are being dug up by Pluto from the bottom and being brought to the surface to be seen the truth of, to be transformed, to basically, it needs to have a death so that we can have a rebirth. So this is happening in the sign of Aquarius. And it's no surprise to me that on this week, as that power of Pluto, power to the people energy, starts to strengthen again, as the planet has been kind of, just kind of drifting and hovering and is now moving again, that in this country here, and this is very much related to Uranus being in the sign of Gemini, as I mentioned earlier, that my life has been in chaos since Uranus moved into Gemini. And Uranus is going to be moving back into the sign of Taurus shortly to wrap up what it was doing in Taurus so that it can fully move on to its future in the sign of Gemini. But we've been experiencing what that future might be bringing. Not just chaos, but a disruptor to bring about change. Uranus is the great awakener. So we've got that going on. Uranus retrograde in the sign of Gemini, and Pluto starting to move forwards in the sign of Aquarius. Uranus in Gemini, in this country here in the UK, Gemini being air, Uranus being futuristic technology, AI, the airways. We are seeing this introduction of digital ID in this country. And so far, I've not met one single solitary person who is up for that idea, who wants it. And never before I've seen so many things that, you've got some people that are against it and some people that are for it. But this is probably the most I've ever seen people be against something that's being forced on them by the hierarchy. That old story of Capricorn in this new story of Aquarius. This weekend, there is a mass united non-compliance demonstration against the digital ID. Just as Pluto starts to move forward in the sign of Aquarius, as Uranus is retrograde in the sign of Gemini. So we didn't know that this was how it was going to play out, but this is a story which shows how, on a collective level, this can be playing out. This crushing of our freedoms is causing awakenings and disruptions so that we can bring the power back to the people. So we'll watch how this story plays out. But I just wanted to tell you about that because, I'm an observer. I'm actually going to be at Poetry Circle at the weekend. So that would be my way of bringing peace and imagination and creativity and my soul into the picture. I have been to demonstrations in my life. I'm not feeling that is where I need to be right now, although I am there in spirit. As Pluto stations, Pluto is forming a grand air trine. So that means that there is a harmonious aspect between air signs. Yep. So Pluto in Aquarius, air sign. Uranus in Gemini, air sign. Venus in Libra, air sign. All in harmony with each other. So it actually signifies that this is a really perfect time to form alliances and find support from like-minded communities. So I can see that this demonstration at the weekend, I'd be very surprised if there was trouble. Very surprised. If there is any, it will be because it would have been instigated by a little bit of this Mars in Scorpio energy that we've got at the moment, the sting in the tail, probably deliberately to catch it on camera to make it look as though it was trouble. But I would imagine that there will be this big Venus, Libra, open-hearted being with others energy going on. Oh, it's making me want to go, But anyway, so that's this energy that we've got right now coming into this weekend. And then coming up to the 20th on Monday, that's when I will be holding the new moon ceremony. It's online, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world. As long as you can be up and awake, you can join online. It's 8 o'clock in the evening UK time. So it's 8 till 9:30 p.m. And we gather on Zoom and I give you a lot more information than I'm giving you now about what's going on. And we can look at it much more personally, how it's relating to you and your chart, and we can look at that together. We can see where this new moon in Libra, in the sign of Libra, is, which house area it's going to be showing up for you. And we look at ways that we can support ourselves and each other through any challenges that might come up. Now, new moons are always a time for putting down our wishes, for what we would like to manifest. Now that those eclipses and things are out of the way, and we're actually at a nice normal new moon with a beautiful Venus in there, so we can really focus on our values, our worth, our desires, and how we relate to others and what we wish for ourselves and for others. So a really good time to focus on what we want to manifest and work on for that. So we will do some journaling prompts. We'll pull some oracle cards. So I've got my lovely new oracle cards here. So these are the Rebecca Campbell Inner Temple cards, and whatever cards I'm drawn to come out in the evening. So it might not necessarily be these, but a bit excited still about these ones. So that moon ceremony is going to be on the dark moon. So really it'll be a dark moon ceremony that we are doing. And it's very, very appropriate, this dark moon, because black moon Lilith is very much involved in this dark moon, new moon phase, which I'll talk about in a moment. So we have that online moon ceremony. It literally is only £11 and 11p. So it really isn't too much money. And I give you an hour and a half of my time and at least 3 hours of my time preparing for it. So it really is a bargain. I do it just because I'm doing it on a regular basis. Every 2 weeks, you get to know yourself better. You get to understand, you get to track the moon phases, and you get to learn all about astrology in a slow way together, where we can ask questions. And it's not to become an astrologer, but you can become your own astrologer as we go along. So I have got people that have been coming for quite a few years now. Yes. So then we have the new moon in Libra on the 21st here in the UK time. So the time of the new moon will vary from country to country, so you will have to look yours up if you're in another country. But here in the UK, it will be at 13:25. So that's 25 minutes past 1 in the afternoon, which is why we're not doing the ceremony on a Tuesday afternoon. And Tuesday evenings, I'm teaching yoga and Pilates. So that hence it being on the Monday evening, the night before, on the dark moon evening. On this same day, Mercury, who's currently in the sign of Scorpio, is going to be conjunct Mars in Scorpio. Also, just slightly behind them is Black Moon Lilith. So we've got Mars, Mercury and Black Moon Lilith all in the sign of Scorpio together. So that's bringing in an interesting, watery, deep, dark, intense, truth speaking, primal energy into this new moon phase. So we're going to look on the moon ceremony of much more in depth into that and how we can use that and what that means for us all personally. Coming to that new moon in Libra, what is that suggesting for us all? Well, what it's really going to be highlighting is that deep longing, that deep, deep longing, that deep ache in our soul. It's literally bringing and making our purpose for ourselves and together, our soul purpose is really coming, it's bringing it all about togetherness, about ourselves and how we relate to others. It's just so obvious right now, isn't it? it's really inviting us to look at that, how we relate to others, how we relate to ourselves, how we receive that relating from others. It's like others are a mirror to us. And what is being reflected is helping us to transform what needs to be changed so that we can all get on with each other better, because it can't get much worse. And that may be either in the world or in our own personal situations. So that Mars, Mercury, Lilith energy is actually showing up for me in my 12th house. There's also an aspect from Eris, which is the sister of Mars. Eris is with Chiron, the wounds, in Aries around this moon as well. And Eris is making an aspect to my Lilith in my chart. So everything is saying that I'm going to have to go and look at the deep psychology of how I relate to others, my relationships. That's where Uranus is for me. There is no getting out of it. Everywhere I look in my chart right now, it's about that stuff, that deep stuff that needs to be brought up and not be suppressed anymore. That very much primal survival energy. We're being shown ourselves and how we are still maybe in a response. We're living from a response to fear. We're living in survival mode. We're living according to our unmet needs when we were children. And we're shown how we're still living from that rather than from a place of where we feel secure and loved, and how we give that to ourselves and how we can receive that from others by giving it to ourselves. That's very much what all this is about, particularly with Venus there in her home sign of Libra, ruling over this moon energy. This new moon is also in forming a square, so that's 90-degree angles. It's called a T-square, to Pluto in Aquarius and Jupiter in Cancer. My feeling is that Jupiter being over in Cancer, with this moon being about, the people, it's bringing up a feeling of how secure, the moon is our security. Cancer is our home where we feel secure. And it's really, Jupiter is expanding and emphasizing how secure we feel in our home, our homeland. Pluto is bringing to the surface how we coexist together in a futuristic world. Aquarius. Pluto is about power, empowering ourselves in a world where we feel disempowered. A world where science and technology has become God. This is big stuff. Lots of people are turning to things like astrology. I've seen lots of people that I know turning back to, they're exploring religions. They're reading about that stuff because they're looking for faith, hope, faith, and trust. This is real core stuff, core elements of us as humans. The last thing that I need to tell you is this moon is very, very tightly opposing Chiron. So all those old stories about abandonment, rejection, being betrayed, literally just showing us, like I've just mentioned, about where we have not healed, where we're still living from an unhealed place. And that is, it's shaping how we are in relation to others, how we're in relation to ourselves. It shows why we get treated by others in a certain way and why we treat others in a certain way. We need to feel into that pain and not numb it out. You know, I was watching, there's this guy that I follow, Josh, and he was talking about how empathic, deeply sensitive people are told that they're too much, and they should, like, you know, just get over it and not feel so much, not be so bothered. But I think it's the people that are numb, the ones that are numbing out, that need to feel more. We all need to feel more and stop trying to avoid that feeling, because the avoiding of feeling is creating a very narcissistic, self-centered energy, rather than, you know, bringing us all together in connection. You can't, if you're avoiding, you can't connect. If you're avoiding yourself, you can't connect with others. Back to Strala Yoga. When we practice Strala Yoga, we connect with ourselves. We notice how we feel, and we find ways to make that hard things easier, to do it from a place of calm, to be movable, to unweight, to not hold a painful and stay in a painful, bad position, and to move through it and breathe through it, to soften our harsh edges, and to simply notice how we feel, so that our nervous systems can be regulated. These wounds that we are healing will then become medicine. They become wisdom that we can then teach to others and share. Finally, as we've come to half an hour again, I do like a half an hour podcast. We just have to accept that half an hour is about it for me. Let's see, let's make a challenge going forward, see if I can actually do a 15-minute. I did it. I think the only 15-minute video I did was because I had to for the audition for Nightlight Astrology, for one of their co-hosting auditions that they did. It's probably a good job that I didn't get it if they always want me to do something in 15 minutes. Yes, because I do like to give you as much as I can. I'm a giver. Neptune is retrograding back into the sign of Pisces on the 22nd. So that's the day after the new moon, to wrap up that story that Neptune has been, you know, it's basically the end of a 165-year cycle, Pisces being the end of the zodiac, Aries being the beginning. Neptune has been just in Aries for a little while, so we get a taste of what that new beginning is going to be like, but now he's going back to finish up that 165-year story. So before we were even born, let's look back 165 years and see what has happened in that cycle. But also, as that is happening over the next 4 months, that Neptune sort of retrogrades back into Pisces until it moves back into Aries, it will be in the middle of this grand water trine that's coming up. So we'll have Jupiter in Cancer, Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, Mercury and Mars in Scorpio. Oh, what a lovely last week of October we're going to have there. So it really feels like a magic wand, like the universe is on our side for the first time in a long time, helping us to, you know, tap into our dreams again, to make our dreams real, with that Saturn energy there. So yeah, I've got a chance to birth a new dream at this point. So anyway, come and join me on Monday evening online for the new moon ceremony. Also, if you are local to here in Chelmsford, next Friday on the 24th, as we enter Scorpio season, the sun will have just moved into Scorpio. We have a gong bath, so a Scorpio season sound healing session for you all to take you into that next season as we start to come fully into autumn, when the evenings are really drawing in now. So yeah, So come and find out more on Monday. If you can't join me, go and sit down, write down your wishes, send them out to the moon, allow the moon's energy to bless you, and I will see you all next week.